Seymour Hersh just released the fact that the United States blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. You weren't briefed on that. Why not? Are you going to put a congressional probe into that? Yes or no? Because this ain't no ordinary journalist. You know that.
So,
I want to hear what he has to say.
Nord Stream is a pipeline that transfers oil from Europe, particularly Germany. I'm sorry, from Russia to Germany. So we don't have the authority to investigate pipelines.
All right, come on. Now that's bullshit. You know that. Victoria Nuland herself says she's happy that it's a pile of metal underwater. Do you share her sentiment?
Here's what we know. The Europeans are conducting an investigation.
They investigated.
And it is true.
Why did Joe Biden say that we are going to get rid of the Nord Stream pipeline? And when asked, but wait a minute, that's run by Gazprom in Germany, how are you going to do it? He said,
we'll be able to do it.
You have definitive evidence.
Yeah, we do. It's called Seymour Hersh.
Then produce the evidence.
He already
produced the evidence.
It already has.
Read the article.
Listen, this is Seymour Hersh. This is the My Lai massacre. Okay, this is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. He is not going to publish something he can't prove. So unless you're naive enough and you don't know that, I'm here to inform you. I'm at least asking for congressional inquiry into whether or not it's true, because his credibility alone should prompt that, don't you think?
The Europeans are conducting an investigation.
We know the United States did this.
It seems like you know the answer to the question.
Well, what are you going to do? I'm your constituent. I'm your constituent. I want you to actually do something about it.
I'm going to answer your question once more, and then I'm going to move on. The Europeans are conducting.
That's a non-answer. What are you doing? Because if the United States did this, you are going to hold, you have to hold them accountable. This is more. Listen, we are on the verge of a nuclear war right now. I don't think you know that, and if the people here don't know that, they should. Look, you talk a big game about the Bronx. You talk a big game about a lot of things, but guess what? None of it's going to matter if we're all dead. Think about that for a second, right? You are leading us into a nuclear war. What's happening in Ukraine directly affects what's happening here. You don't think you're going to get us into a nuclear war? Is exactly how we get into a nuclear war. Now, as your constituent, I demand that you stop funding the Ukrainians. I understand that you're also an Israeli lobby plant. Look, how can you deny what's happening to the Palestinians, but you can defend what's going on in Ukraine? And now you're trying to erase their history. You are the biggest fraud. You think George Santos is a liar? You're the biggest fraud here.
Welcome to another episode of Straight Outta Politics. I'm your host today. My name is Jay, or CJ, or Compton J on Twitter. I was known as Jay only pre-RBN. CJ and Compton J are names given since being a member of RBN, formerly FHL. So welcome anyway to Straight Out of Politics, and I kind of am transitioning to the Straight Out of Politics more because I'm backing away from some of the day in and day out analysis of progressive Democrats. And I felt the title "You Left Shit Out" was very accurate for what I would be covering a lot, which was the progressive Democrats, and they always leave out stuff about the Democrats when they're critiquing things. So, but transitioning back to this, because this was actually my original show title, was Straight Out of Politics. So anyway, just a little backstory, but starting out here with my man Jose Vega, always like he's so to the point in his questioning, and he's not detoured by some of the plants in the audience. He's not detoured by some of the people who don't know what's going on and they're trying to shout him down. So he's a perfect person for this type of work. And we're going to play this video again and kind of break down. Richie Torres is terrible. If you didn't know, he's been terrible. I know that sounds funny, but yeah, he's been terrible. Let me just bring up Richie Torres, so everybody knows who he was, who may not live in New York and may not know who he is. This is the person that he was protesting, or the group was protesting. He lives in this district, his district, and I believe he also lives in AOC's district or something. I can't remember. One of the other persons he protests with lives in AOC, so this is great. These are people who live. Lucy also lives in AOC's district, so these are people who live in the district, so they can't be turned out of these meetings. I live in this district. You can't turn me away from these meetings. So, Richie was ill prepared for a confrontation like this. So this is the clown right here, and we can officially label him as a clown. He is gonna be given an official clown medal. Richie Torres. So let's just read where he's from. Congressman, New York 15, born and bred in the Bronx, grew up in poverty, and now I'm fucking those people in poverty over now. Oh, it didn't say that part. Product of public housing, and now I'm fucking those people over in public housing now. So this is his personal account, I guess. Let's click on his government account. Congressman for New York, 15, Bronx native, product of, see how he's trying to play up this shit here? Quick to play the shit up. This is what the petty bourgeoisie of all colors, specifically though, people of color, black, brown, indigenous, not indigenous, but black and brown is my experience. When they have crossed over and sold out, they steady want to use this. Like they're consistently and continually fucking over the exact people they came from. And this is my critique of Ryan Grimm, because Ryan Grimm grew up poor. But then those are the exact people he's fucking over by his shielding of the squad AOC. So that enrages me. So this particular guy deserves an extra fuck you from Straight Out of Politics, and glad to give it to him. Let's read some of the comments here. Let's see. Greetings, comrades. I don't know how anyone would believe Russia sabotaged their own pipeline when the U.S. has been vocal in opposition to the pipeline since day one. And then I don't know if we're going to get to the video, but one of the videos they have Joe Biden literally talking about that pipeline is not going to happen at some press briefing. And he got a question, well, you don't own it, and like exactly how are you going to do that? This is Germany's thing. Well, it'll be done. Like they didn't have a plan for public-facing questions, though. They didn't have a ruse. Pretty terrible. But anyway, let's get back to some of the comments here. I just saw the notification, dropped what I was doing, and tuned in, but I guess I missed the segment. Hasn't started yet. Hasn't started yet. The show just started. So actually, let's do that. Let's talk about, because we're going to get back to this video. This is the first thing we're going to be talking about is the protest video. So, but let me talk about the topics and kind of give some announcements, I guess you can say, so I can get into the topic. So the first thing we're talking about, and I can put graphic up here. Oh, that's the Straight Out of Politics graphics. And then here is today's stream. And the guy in the glasses, that is Seymour Hersh. That is the reporter. And then we have Jake Sullivan and, of course, the evil, sinister Victoria Nuland. So that is the cover story. So Seymour Hersh breaks his public silence. Not that he was trying to be silent, but he finally had some interviews that we can kind of look at. And he's an interesting guy because in the interview on Democracy Now, it's a 30-minute interview, but it's probably about 5 minutes of information that has to do, maybe 7 minutes of information that has to do directly with this. You can tell he's a free spirit kind of guy, so he talks just kind of freely and moves and goes on tangents and comes back. And so, not sure we can get to the whole 30-minute video, but I do have a couple of clips we can get to. The other the other topic is Democrats become more radical when not in majority, and we have a good example with Bernie Sanders. Hey, Bernie Sanders is doing this. Bernie Sanders introducing this bill. He's doing that right now. And people are falling for that shit. Why didn't he present any of these bills while he was in power? His party had all chambers. Because it's a fucking joke. And then I came across an interesting article that points out that babies of rich Black women die at a higher rate than those of even poor white women. So it's kind of a class sort of race analysis that they do in that article. And it's very interesting. So we'll talk about that. And then some other quick stories. We may talk about these quick 2-minute stories. Dianne Feinstein didn't know she was even retiring in the video. So we may play that and get reaction. And then last but certainly not least, we're going to have Courtney Banks joining us for the second hour. And that's when we're going to cover where is it? Oh, I didn't even have it listed. We're also going to cover her Marianne Williamson's video. I didn't have it listed. So with Courtney Banks, we're going to be talking about Marianne Williamson and just Democrats' strategy in general. And also the story with babies of rich Black women die at a higher rate than poor white women. We're going to be covering that with her. Okay. So let's get back to the protest video now. I think I covered all of the topics. I feel like I'm missing one. So I may throw one in at the end here. All right, so let's get back to the video of our man Jose Vega. And now let's break it down. There's actually a part 2 to this, but we're going to break down the first one and talk about some of the points made, some of the responses given by, what is his name? Richie Torres. I was about to say Richie Neal. So we'll do that in just a moment, but let me make sure I don't have any other outstanding comments to pull up. Yeah, that was pretty base. The the constituent Jose Vega. It was a pretty base line of questioning. Very, very determined speech and the way tone of speaking that he has. So, love the display of not being afraid. The politicians work for you. That's how your interaction with your politician should be. Like this, not like they're a celebrity. Should be like, bitch, I pay your fucking salary. Now answer this fucking question. Now, maybe you would exclude bitch. I'm just telling you how I would do it. So you can nice it up in your own language, but that's exactly how I thought that was referring to something else. It should be done. A couple more announcements, and then we'll get to it. Substack, always trying to get people on our Substack. Always good to be on our Substack for an emergency if we're shut down on YouTube, just so you have hey, we're over here now. You can find our new account. So it's always good to be on there for that. The other thing, by the end of the year is the target. We're going to start writing op-eds. We even want other reporters to write op-eds, like people like Wyatt Reed, maybe Danny Hyphen, other people. we might reach out to and ask. And that's for sure they'll do it, but we may reach out to and ask. So that's the target by the end of the year. The other thing, if you want notifications when we go live, join our Substack. Nick will be having Nick at Night tonight. I don't know the time yet, but if you join our Substack, you'll get a notification of that. So join our Substack. You also get the added bonus of getting our Discord link. Now, scrolling at the bottom is our Substack. If you're able to contribute $2, $3 a month, that's the best way to do it, through our Substack. If you're not able to do that, that's completely fine. Share and like the video, and that brings me to the last thing, or one of the last things. Like this video. We have 222 people watching. Can we get 200 likes, 200 people to hit that like button? Actually, let's bring the likes to 200 is a better way of saying it. So everybody hit that like button. Let's get to 200 likes. And our subscriber count was at 900. Let me see what it is now. We added some people. So we're close to 31,000. We're close to 31,000. Thank you for all of those who subscribed. We had at least 30 people subscribed based on our latest video with about Ahmadju's Baraka's critique of the Rage Against the War Machine rally. That's interesting. But 30,925, so 75 more people, and we can hit the 31,000. Thank you for those that have subscribed. So now let's get to the video. A lot of announcements. Sorry, everybody. Now let's refocus. If you went to the bathroom, if you did something else, let's pull up Jose's video again and play it. And let's give it a name, actually, so that this is easily cut by, let's call it anti-war protest and Richie Torres, the scumbag, Richie Torres. Oh, I'll just put his regular name, his government name. He's known around town as. So this is what we'll call it, Aaron, and we can start here. Anti-war protests and Richie Torres is today's segment, or first segment. And here is friend of the show, Jose Vega, basically busting Richie Torres up, figuratively, that is. But we'll start and stop and point out just great points.
Seymour Hersh just released the fact that the United States blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. You weren't briefed on that. Why not? Are you going to put a congressional probe into that? Yes or no? Because this ain't no ordinary journalist. You know that.
So,
He is completely like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. Caught in the hot sauce. Now, this is what elected people hate doing the most, is this. Because then they have to answer to all the bullshit they're doing, they have to answer to their constituents. So loving every bit of it, Jose. Shout out to Jose. I know you retweeted the link to this stream, so thanks for that. And let's listen to some more.
Oh, I want to hear what he has to say.
Nord Stream is a pipeline that transfers oil from Europe, particularly Germany. I'm sorry, from Russia to Germany. So we don't have the authority to investigate pipelines.
We don't have the authority to investigate pipelines. Do you even feel like he believes that? I'm going to rewind it because maybe I should ask the question before he answered. You tell me, based on your own, and this is what the professional managerial class doesn't want you to do, to go off your gut. That's what they want you to go off book now. Oh, let's listen to us. We got book knowledge. Forget your gut. Go off your however many years, 15 years on this planet, 25 years on this planet, all the way up to however old you are, 85 years old, watching us right now. Based on your interactions with humans, you tell me if you believe that he thinks what he's saying is the truth, or he's just saying it.
Oh, I want to hear what he has to say.
Nord Stream is a pipeline that transfers oil from Europe, particularly Germany. I'm sorry, from Russia to Germany. So we don't have the authority to investigate pipelines.
All right, come on. Now that's bullshit. You know that.
And Jose points it out. To me, it's a tell in his face, but I go off my gut, and I tell people I use my gut with a lot of things, and my gut has got me this far, especially growing up from the area that I grew up in. So I'm gonna go with that. I'm choosing that. I'm choosing that over anything the professional managerial class tells me. Let's listen a little more. Let's see what other point is made here.
Victoria Nuland herself says she's happy that it's a pile of metal underwater. Do you share her sentiment?
Here's what we know. The Europeans are conducting an investigation.
They investigated.
And it is true.
Why did Joe Biden say that we are going to get rid of the Nord Stream pipeline? And when asked, but wait a minute, that's run by Gazprom in Germany, how are you going to do it? He said,
We'll be able to do it.
You have definitive evidence.
yeah, we do. It's called Seymour Hersh.
Then produce the evidence.
He already
You
did.
produced the evidence.
It already has
Read
that.
What happens till we don't have the authority to investigate? You see how that was bullshit? Because now he's saying produce the evidence. These people is terrible. Let's continue. Like Richie Torres is one of the people I hate the most in Congress is this guy.
Article.
Listen, this is Cy Hersh. This is the My Lai massacre. Okay, this is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. He is not going to publish something he can't prove. So unless you're naive enough and you don't know that, I'm here to inform you. I'm at least asking for congressional inquiry into whether or not it's true, because his credibility alone should prompt that, don't you think?
The Europeans are conducting an investigation.
He keeps saying, you see how politicians are so fearful. They're locked in talking points regardless of what you're saying. They have to check with their donors first. And being out freelancing it like this when they have to go see their constituents, this is why they fear this. They fear an informed constituent coming up to their shit and showing them up like this. This is what they hate. Now, watch, just like what AOC did, and Ilhan, after the protest event happened, he'll have a bunch of shit to say. A bunch of logic. After he talked to some people and they told him this is what you're going to say, he'll have a bunch, but here, he's a one-trick pony.
We know the United States did this.
It seems like you know the answer to the question.
Well, what are you going to do? I'm your constituent. I'm your constituent. I want you to actually do something about it.
I'm going to answer your question once more, and then I'm going to move on. The Europeans are conducting.
That's a non-answer. What are you doing? Because if the United States did this, you are going to you have to hold them accountable. This is more. Listen, we are on the verge of a nuclear.
Look at this fuck face right here. The fuckface worker who's protecting the ruling class and all of imperialism. Workers protecting politicians is fucking disgusting to me. If I was there, I would have said, sit the fuck down, have a Coke and a smile, and sit your fucking ass down. It's truly infuriating to have regular people defending scumbags like Richie Torres, like AOC, like Ilhan Omar. These are filthy, despicable people because they're, oh, I'm progressive, I'm going to do something for the people, and they're doing the same thing that corporate Democrats are doing. How are their votes any different than a corporate Democrat? If you replace every single progressive Democrat with a corporate bought Democrat, what vote would be different? So have a Coke and a smile and sit the fuck down.
Nuclear war right now. I don't think you know that, and the people here don't know that. They should. You talk a big game about the Bronx. You talk a big game about.
And what I love about how Jose does it, and I mentioned this earlier, he don't see nobody but Richie Torres. He understands there's going to be a lot of workers who are brainwashed by this garbage, and you're just to look past them. You're irrelevant, brainwashed worker. Have a Coke and a smile and sit the fuck down.
A lot of things, but guess what? None of it's going to matter if we're all dead. Think about that for a second, right? You are leading us into a nuclear war. What's happening in Ukraine directly affects what's happening here. You don't think you're going to get us into a nuclear war? Is exactly how we get into a nuclear war. Now, as your constituent, I demand that you stop funding the Ukrainians. I understand that you're also an Israeli lobby plant. Look, how can you deny?
Ooh, Israeli lobby plant. Israeli lobby plant. Love that. Not just simply you take money from them, but you're an Israeli lobby plant. Love it. At all. Don't deserve our civility whatsoever. Did I just tweet about this? Or did I have a segment on this? Maybe it was a segment. Yeah, something like politicians deserve all of our disrespect. Oh, yeah, it was a segment we just uploaded. That is true. Civility politics is how they keep us where we're at. How would this ever be answered if we were to go through the proper channels? How? How would it ever be addressed? It would never be addressed. It'd be some staffer that sends some talking points by email and send you on your way and ask for some money the next day. So loving this. It's coming to an end, though. We're gonna move on to the Nord Stream story, but there is a last, 20 seconds here? Yeah, 23 seconds.
What's happening to the Palestinians, but you can defend what's going on in Ukraine. And now you're trying to erase their history. You are the biggest fraud. You think George Santos is a liar? You're the biggest fraud.
I love this, what he put in there. But you can hear moronic, uninformed workers getting upset. We are the most propagandized people on the fucking planet. The most propagandized people. Because everybody in this room should be like, what? If they didn't know this. Because I would have to hope they didn't know what he's saying. And that's why they're not up in arms about it. But let's hope the people here in this room at least will go home and Google Seymour Hersh and say, at least, let me see what this guy was even talking about, this protester. I would hope they would at least do that. Even because you might just be saying, I don't know if this guy is insane or not, so I'm going to sit down and not say nothing yet when I get home, or I'm Googling it right now. You can take it however the fuck you want to take it, Rupert. I don't give a fuck what you take it like. To be quite honest with you. Workers working against or working for the empire, you can call them sheep. I call them complicit. So you can go fuck the fuck off, sir. To be frank with you. So that's the end of that. Include that, Aaron, in this fucking clip. This fucking Rupert piece of shit. Fucking now you're shielding for people who are shielding for the empire? Fuckface? You got to the wrong stream, sir. You stumbled on the wrong stream. So let's now move to the Nord Stream pipeline. As I got about 20 minutes before my guest shows up. Courtney Banks at 4 p.m. roughly, hoping she'll get in here roughly around there. We'll do the Dianne Feinstein. I was going to do another quick story, but that one took a little longer to go through. So we'll do Dianne Feinstein a little bit later. But let's start out with a couple of intro videos first to kind of get us caught up. So you see Seymour Hersh right there in that clip, but that's the second clip we're going to cover. So let's cover the first one and take this banner down. Start a new banner here. So let's, did I pass it? Oh, here it goes. Let's do this one here. Now, I'm using Democracy Now! Not because, there are some great journalists of media that's corporate, because they're corporate. They do let the most radical people on. Not that they have a bunch, but they are the outlet that'll have at least a little bit on. They'll still push some of the same talking points from the State Department. But they do have, when they do have these people on, that's why like Seymour Hersh, nobody else would have them on. They're having them on. And that's the reason why I use their clips a lot, because they have people on that corporate media would never have on. So let's listen to this, because she's going to describe what's happening first. And then we can get into more the Seymour Hersh part. I think that's how you say his name. I'm going to put his, yeah. Oh, I was going to put this one in. So let's go like this. Goes public. That's all right. It's not breaking silence, because it wasn't like he was trying to be quiet or anything. So, but Mr. Hersh goes public with his reporting, and this is one of the full interviews I haven't seen any other interview. If anybody else has seen, the Russell Brand was another one done either earlier today or last night or something. I saw a clip of that, but this is the full interview that I've seen. I haven't seen the one with Russell Brand, if anyone else has. So let's start here, Aaron. Seymour Hersh goes public with his reporting on the Nord Stream pipeline. He went on Democracy Now! And let's listen to this first clip. Now, we might play a little bit of the full interview just so you can get an idea of like how he's kind of a free spirit. He kind of goes on tangents and talks about different things and comes back. But let's listen to this first clip of Democracy Now!
Investigative journalist Seymour Hersh has accused the United States of sabotaging the Nord Stream pipelines, which were built to carry natural gas from Russia to Europe. The pipelines were severely damaged last September in a series of underwater explosions in the Baltic Sea. In a self-published piece on his new Substack page, Seymour Hersh alleges the sabotage was carried out by the U.S. Navy, which he says planted remotely triggered explosives during NATO exercises last summer with the help of Norway's military and Secret Service. Hersh alleges President Joe Biden authorized the sabotage. Hersh cited a single unnamed source, quote, with direct knowledge of the operational planning, unquote. A White House spokesperson described the report as complete fiction, while the CIA called it completely and utterly false. The Norwegian Foreign Ministry also denied the claims. Seymour Hersh's report comes 2 weeks after Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Victoria Nuland made these remarks during a Senate Foreign Relations Committee
Why are they
hearing on the
talking
war
out
in
loud
Ukraine.
about this? Why are they...
And I think the administration is very gratified to know that Nord Stream 2 is now, as you like to say, a hunk of metal at the bottom of the...
It's such a bizarre statement for her to make. And I know a bunch of you have seen this. We've played this many times in different segments. But it's such a bizarre statement. And it was unneeded here. Like, why at some point they're just, because this is what bullies do. They want to boast a little bit. They're itching to boast about it. So this is why when questioning about this, they have any sort of smirky little answers. And Joe Biden had one too. But let's finish the video.
See?
In December, the New York Times reported Russia had begun expensive repairs on the pipeline, a move which has raised questions about Western claims that Russia had bombed its own pipeline. The sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines released up to 150,000 tons.
So they're going to bomb their own and then spend tons of millions of dollars, if not millions of dollars to fix it. That's what happened. That's what happened, Richie Torres. Show me the proof. Let's continue.
Tons of methane gas into the atmosphere, making it one of the largest methane leaks ever recorded from a single source.
So that kind of gives a little backdrop. Now, this is a shorter clip, but it does have some good information, and you can hear directly from Seymour himself.
This is what I think the ultimate point of the story, and why so many people, even the intelligence community, are very troubled by it. What he did is he said, I'm in a big war with Ukraine. It's not looking good. I want to be sure I get German and West European support. And I know winter's coming, and if it's going to be bad, I don't want the Germans to say, we got to check out because we're getting massacred. We'll be massacred with no cheap fuel.
So you get the play, the logic. This clip kind of explains the logic. Is that in order for Germans to stay on board, and other European nations to stay on board with the war with Ukraine, that pipeline had to be destroyed. Because we don't want them kind of getting faint. Sanctions stopping the gas flow. Forget that. Let the gas flow come through because prices are getting up there. Like, for example, if it was never blown up and the war happened, gas prices in Europe, including Germany, skyrocket, you think Germany would not look to this pipeline to alleviate the pain of people? So he's kind of going at the heart of the logic or the rationale behind it. So let's listen.
Here's what Biden did, and this is what I think the ultimate point of the story, and why so many people, even the intelligence community, are very troubled by it. What he did is he said, I'm in a big war with Ukraine. It's not looking good. I want to be sure I get German and West European support. And I know winter's coming, and if it's going to be bad, I don't want the Germans to say, we got to check out because we're getting massacred. We'll be massacred with no cheap fuel. And our economy will go bonkers. We're going to check out and we're going to open up the gas line, which they could do. So he took away that option. Here's what Biden did, and this is what I think the ultimate point of the story, and why so many people, even the...
He took away that option. That is such an important point to understand, and you get the connection to the Ukraine war. You get that there. Now let's go to Dan Cohen. Dan is a friend of the show. He's a journalist. He writes. He's recently been writing a lot about Haiti and what's going on down there. And we brought him on. The last time he was on was about that. But in his tweet here, it says, in light of the Seymour Hersh bombshell on the U.S. and Norway, bombshell on the U.S. and Norway blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, let's recall how U.S. officials openly incited against it for months, then blame Russia. This is why it was such an ill, plan.
The sledgehammer that we have against Putin is to shut down the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and do it permanently.
This is a real, acute, and proven threat.
I'm a big proponent of making sure we stop Nord Stream 2 from happening.
Stopping the Nord Stream 2.
And we need
the chancellor is there right
now. Assets like the Nord Stream 2.
And, Trump also isn't wrong to identify Nord Stream 2, this pipeline that he talked about today, as problematic.
There is still time to stop Nord Stream 2 if we act quickly.
The timeline for action is short.
And I'm not going to stop working to halt Nord Stream 2 to stop Russia.
End it once and for all.
I mean, he needs to kill the Nord Stream 2 pipeline right now.
And I think the most important thing right now, and what Zelensky said, is they want Nord Stream 2 stopped. That's what I see as the most tangible reason and the tangible effect.
I believe we must stop this Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
We should have brought the project to an end.
There's still time to stop it, but we need to act quickly.
Nord Stream 2 is a danger to peace as we know it.
Nord Stream 2 is energy blackmail.
It's Putin's pipeline. It's a trap for a Russian trap.
There will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
We will put an end to it.
Germany should cancel the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. We're looking at a variety of things we could do there.
We've been so far trying to use other tools to stop the Nord Stream 2.
And we got legislation that was appropriate to now have delayed this project significantly. We need further tools. We're prepared to use those tools should you provide them to us. And we've also used our diplomatic capabilities.
This pipeline must be stopped. And the only way to prevent the completion is to use all the tools available to do that.
If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
Kill Nord Stream 2 now and let it rust beneath the waves of the Baltic.
What Victoria understood, and when in a part where she says, if they invade, the Nord Stream pipeline has to be destroyed. Because they couldn't have the Germans back out. That was key. So maybe they weren't going to do this right away. Maybe it was always just as a contingency. But they knew if that happened. Now, maybe that's why they provoked Russia so much. So that they could invade and so that they can have a reason to blow up the pipeline. Which is an act of war, by the way. And let me bring in an article really quickly, and I'm going to go back to the video presentation in just a second. But to that point that I'm making here, let me insert the 2 paragraphs of an article on it. Black Agenda report, did the U.S. blow up Nord Stream if there is no media to report it? So the point of this article is saying the media is keeping it, is saying basically out of sight, out of mind. And this is how they keep most Americans uninformed. The same people that was in that protest, uninformed, trying to shout Jose Vega down. Let's read. This is actually written by Margaret Kimberly, friend of the show. So this is a direct write by her. And we'll just read a little bit of it. And I'll read this quote here. The Norwegian Navy was quick to find the right spot in the shallow water a few miles off Denmark's Bornholm Island, end quote. And that's from Seymour Hersh. Now let's begin with the article. A respected investigative Journalists explain how the U.S. sabotaged the Nord Stream pipeline, but corporate media working in service to the state ignore the story and endanger the world. So understand that. They're working as an agent of the state. Oops, I was in the wrong one. Hang on a second here. Hang on a second here. My bod. Let me move this 1 second. Saw. All right, now I have the right one. I have the article up twice. All right, now you'll see where I'm following. And I just read this part here. And let's continue. Here's a quote. I'm here now. Let's see. Quote, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? End quote. The idea behind this old thought experiment should not be relegated to the realm of philosophy. Present day reality can be used in place of the hypothetical falling tree. If the United States blows up the Nord Stream pipeline, but the media ignores it, did the attack ever happen? That is a great point. Seymour Hersh has all the credentials that usually give one gravitas in the world of journalism. As a freelance reporter, he exposed the U.S. Army's 1969 massacre of Vietnam civilians at My Lai and won a Pulitzer Prize for his effort. He later worked at the New York Times and reported on high-profile stories such as the Watergate revelation and the CIA coup against the government of Chile. In 2004, Hersh exposed torture of Iraqis at Abu Ghraib prison for the New Yorker. None of these accomplishments helped Hersh when he recently provided evidence what had long been obvious, that the Biden administration blew up the Nord Stream pipeline on September 26, 2022 in a 5,200 word article published on his Substack entitled How America Took Out Nord Stream Pipeline. Hersh utilized highly placed sources who presented as one might say the receipts of how the deed was done. That is actually a good point how she words it here. High placed sources who presented as one, like maybe he's just presenting them as one source. And I see my guest has arrived. What's up, Courtney? I'll bring you in. Just give me the thumbs up whenever you're ready to come in. All right, I see you. Let me finish this paragraph and I'm going to bring you in to get your comments. Also, Joe Biden and his foreign policy team at the State Department, National Security Agency, and Central Intelligence Agency first discussed the operation 1 year before carrying it out, and months before Russia's special military operation in Ukraine began. The fear of deepening integration between Russia and Germany was the cause of the alarm. They wanted to end Europe's resources and financial connection to Russia, and decided that exploding the means of the transportation of transporting natural gas was a good idea. According to her sources, and she's putting an S on that, I think I picked up on that point. The plot was carried out with help from Norway, a NATO member nation that made itself the sole source of natural gas in the region by helping in the attack. Financial gain by Norway. The current Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, was formerly a Prime Minister of Norway. Oh, how convenient. And now I'll bring in my guest. I can't believe this article, but I'll pause it here to bring in my guest, Miss Courtney Banks. How are you doing today?
Hey, what's up, birthday twin? How you doing?
I know we are birthday twins. If everybody didn't know, December 8th. That's why I think, like, especially when I'm listening to your streams, like I feel like some of the stuff you say, like I would be saying that shit right there. I don't know if it's a December 8th thing or just what it is, but how are you and what have you been up to? Let the world know what you've been up to.
Hey, and that's why we're so fiery. I think it's that Sagittarius,
Yes.
what can you do? Gosh, yeah, I mean, I've been just doing a lot of like editing and stuff on our channel, trying to learn more about YouTube. We did a live stream yesterday where we also talked about, what's going on in East Palestine. And I think, yeah, just editing away is really what I've been doing and being broke. So, ready to see what kind of bullshit comes up with so many things that we're about to talk about, like the upcoming election. I can't wait for that. I've been watching a lot.
I actually watched your stream, a couple of your streams yesterday, and I saw a snippet, or we're gonna talk about it in a little bit. Saw a snippet where you were talking about a particular section. We're talking about Marianne Williamson that we're gonna play and kind of react to. But I do want to get, since I was just talking about the Nord Stream pipeline, I do want to kind of get your reaction to some of the news. I don't know if you had a chance to kind of read some of the article that Seymour Hersh has written about it, but what is your sort of reaction about the news that there's confirmation that the U.S. blew up this pipeline?
It's always so interesting because I always feel like we already knew it. And then when they confirm it, I'm like, didn't we already know that? And then I get confused what's real and what's not real.
Right. I feel the same way.
The story to me, it immediately made me think of like a Dateline like story where it's like a jealous husband doesn't want his wife to move on. So he's got to stop her from leaving in any way that he can. Like it just seems so simple that it would be us, But yeah, that's pretty interesting.
That's what it feels. That's a good analogy that you use, because that's exactly what it feels like. It was like they don't want you strengthening relationships between Russia and Germany. But we'll end the segment there. We'll include Aaron. We'll include the introduction of Courtney for that segment. But let's move on now to what some of the things I wanted to cover with you. And I know we're going to talk about sort of the state of the left surrounding Marianne Williamson. We'll get to that. That's probably what a lot of people are here to hear, that discussion, because that's probably the more, I don't know if they would say that would be the more robust discussion, let's put it that way. But there is another story I wanted to kind of talk to you about because I did see on another stream, I can't even remember because it was so many, I'm starting to push them together, where you and Keisha were having a discussion about hair products that was giving Black women cancer. And I had just stumbled upon this article and I was like, wow, this would be an interesting article to talk to her about when she comes on. And then when I told you about the article, you said it may have something to do with what you talked about, which was interesting. Could you further kind of explain what you mean by that, how you connect the two topics, what you did, and then this topic that we're talking about today?
Yeah. So actually somebody from our audience brought this to our attention, which I'm so happy. Shout out to Dave. And our aunt Louise, she was a hairdresser. We're old school, many Black people, especially where we're from in the South, it's very expected that you have to look a certain way. And so many Black women were expected to get their hair relaxed with hair relaxers. So some of these products, which many Black women have used since, very young age, things like Just For Me, Dark and Lovely, different perms, sometimes is what they're called. These items have been found to double the woman's ability to get uterine cancer and also fibroids. And the thing that's so it's really just so irritating to me because we spend so little time truly talking about, we talk about needing healthcare, but we spend very little time truly getting into the details of what people need. And Black women are so often overlooked, I think, because we're so often helping fight other people's battles because we're supposedly so strong. And this is something that we've been saying for such a long time. I mean, so many people use Black women and their fibroids as a political pawn, but nothing ever gets done about it. No one ever looks into it. How come there's no funding or research? You know, Kamala Harris had absolutely no problem talking to Charlemagne the God about this. Never heard her talk about it again. So if we know that Black women have fibroids, and now looking at rates of uterine cancer, there have been a lawsuit, class action lawsuits that have come together, and there are now actual commercials that are running. And that's what sparked my attention to it, because this had come up a few months ago where the studies had started coming out. They followed women for 11 years to see, you know, what was going on with the cancer development or anything like that. And, you know, if you've ever gotten your hair relaxed, like, listen, you put this chemical on your scalp and you're supposed to, you know, let it sit there till it burns. And if you were shy in a Black, you know, hairdresser place, then in a Black hair salon, then you might be sitting there for a while. And I was like always very shy, like, Louise. You would sometimes you would get, you know, these like spots and stuff, and you'd have scabs on your head, and you were literally told, you know, that is what is the expectation. I'm wearing a wig now, you know, I will not be shamed again to be wearing protective styles, you know, or getting braids. Thankfully, laws have changed in which Black women can finally wear our hair in different styles where it's not looked down upon. But the fact that there was a law that had to be passed so Black women's hair is not discriminated against, I just think there needs to be government intervention. There needs to be something here where we let Black women get screenings for free. This needs to be taken care of, because who knows what other parts of the body like that this could possibly be affecting. And then you look at stories like this where we already know that Black women, their, you know, death rates with trying to give kids, you know, try to give birth. We have high maternity death rates. And then also with the children, from this article you have, is saying that even with the wealthiest of Black women, their babies are dying. So somebody needs to be looking into this. And I just feel like something needs to be done. And this is something very specific. If everybody wants to start getting into electoralism, I've never heard anybody take up the mantle where this is something I think left or right, anybody could get behind.
Yeah, it's so weird that the Democratic Party, the Democratic establishment, Black women are so important. Yeah, you know, Black women, they're this, and they are the top of this, and they're, you know, but it's never a solution. They never say Black women, they're at the bottom of this poll, and we're gonna go ahead and target that problem and help them because they are helping us get it. It's never anything like that. And I would just hope that more Black women are having conversations like you and your sister have, where they're waking up and saying, why are we giving our all to this party that literally just, you know, takes all of our work and then just treats us, you know, any kind of way? Because to me, I don't understand why, like, they should be rolling out the red carpet for Black women if they're the ones who they're saying that's keeping them in office. To me, that would be a smart, like, politician. Yeah. But hey, maybe there's not. Maybe there's not many of them. But to kind of start the conversation on the article, and you kind of alluded to that, the birth rates with rich Black women, and that's what this article talks about. And Nick says this a lot, and we've all say this a lot. This is where when we say race and class is one and the same for Black people, this is an example or an illustration of that. Because you would go class. Maybe Black people are disproportionately, but it's always class. But this is targeting, these are people in different classes. The Black person is in the upper class and the white person is in the lower class, and it's the same issue. So we're not talking how this. Now there are Black women in the lower class along with these poor white women that may have, you know, will have the same issue. But if it's still happening with Black women who are rich, then what are we talking about? And this is how it illustrates race and class for Black people is the same thing. Or one and the same, I should say, not the same thing. Let me read part of the article and then get sort of your reaction to some of this, but the title is, and this is from the Griot, the title is Groundbreaking Study Shows Babies of Rich Black Women Die at a Higher Rate Than Those of Poor White Women. The landmark study is noteworthy since it's the first to demonstrate how Black families, regardless of their financial condition, are disproportionately impacted by the dangers of childbirth. And this was just written yesterday, or just came out yesterday. The groundbreaking new analysis of 2 million births indicates that rich Black women and their babies are twice as likely to die in the year after childbirth compared to their white counterparts. And let me read this last part, then I'll get sort of your first reaction. According to the New York Times, nearly all the infants born to 2 million first-time moms between 2007 and 2016 in California, the state with the highest annual birth rate, are included in the study released last month by the National Bureau of Economic Research. The babies born to the wealthiest Black women or those in the top 10% earners tended to have higher risk factors than those delivered to more affluent white women. Black babies also had more risk than those born to the poorest white mothers, an indication that Black mothers and their newborns suffer harm before childbirth, regardless of socioeconomic background. And I know you kind of either skimmed or read all of this article, but what say you about this this fact that what do you think it says? What do you think it speaks to say that Black women in whichever economic status is still at a higher rate than even poor people of different races? What do you think that speaks to?
I mean, this is one of the, we know that this is a systemic issue that, I mean, it's a lot of it as well. Unfortunately, it's birthed out of all of these stereotypes, from slavery, just of the strength of Black women, the fact that, we're looked at as breeders. Like something I even learned the other day was that, the term knocked up, when they used to have Black women on the slave auction blocks, if they were pregnant, you could knock up the price. So they were knocked up. So even all of these terms that we have for the ways that we can be used, basically, I feel like in very many ways, we're still looked at as machines and as vehicles rather than as people. And there are just, with TikTok these days, there are just so many testimonials that you can hear from Black mothers who, it doesn't matter what the socioeconomic class, many of them, when they're in pain, they're being accused of being drug addicts, or, and they have no record, of any kind of drug history. So certain things like that are happening. And so I think that there's just a lot of tropes, and I think it's interesting because the conservatives could easily, try to sway Black women by focusing on any of these topics, but they don't like the reality that racism really exists and that, this stuff is within the system. But you see people caught on camera. I saw somebody caught on camera the other day who was a nurse who was talking about Mexican women. And she was so dehumanizing in the way that she was talking about Mexican women and how she, was going to treat them because she was drunk at a bar. And that's truly how people think, and they will treat you differently. So I don't know how you get past that bias. Like we talk about having more Black doctors, that's probably would be helpful. But then again, we have Kamala in the White House and she doesn't do anything. So I don't know.
Right, exactly. And Obama was elected. But here's a couple of comments from Savvy Sab, of course. What's up, Savvy? So Serena Williams almost died during pregnancy because her pain was ignored. Wow. And then she has another one down here. Where's the other one? Gynecology came about by experimenting on Black women with no anesthesia.
Mm.
Sabby, with the just eye-opening facts about this topic. And if you want to go read the rest of this article, I'll go ahead and put it in the description box now. And then I'm going to, Courtney, bring up your video or one of your streams, and we're going to move on to the next topic here, which is I mean, we're talking about Marianne Williamson, but I want to broaden it to kind of the appeal, or to talk more about just, Marianne Williamson is just sort of the tipping point for this discussion. I really want to talk about where the left is, and where maybe the Black left, if we even want to drill down, how do Black people feel the left is going right now? That's really what I want to drill down into. But let me bring up but go ahead if you were gonna comment. I can't see you, but I think I heard you.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna, I'm so okay. I'm surprised I've been told sometimes I'm not included on the left. So I'm glad to be in the conversation today.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later.
That's a different
It's
okay. I didn't know that. So that's you're breaking news to me. I didn't know that. So what have you been, I mean, we're not going to go deep into it, but what have you, they think you're a right winger, or you're just a centrist, or what are they?
It's a different conversation, but it's a lot to do with like, gender and women's rights, and the intersection of sometimes trans rights and women's rights. And I am a very vocal person on women's rights issues, always with respect, of course, though, to trans people and their rights as well. And I just think that we have to have more conversations, because it's a very nuanced topic, and sometimes people don't like that. So
you know what, I had a similar reaction. I don't know if I told you this. I may have told you this in a DM after the grooming stream that I did.
Oh yeah, I think you did.
I had several people have this same reaction, just simply because I was being unbiased. I was trying to be unbiased. And if you watch the stream, it was clear I was kind of biased in the beginning. Then I was trying to be unbiased, but that trying to be unbiased so people can have a conversation, this conversation that you're talking about, was seen as me giving cover. And I was like, I was just trying to not be biased. But that is another discussion that I'll have you on so we can talk about, because you and I have actually talked about this behind the scenes. But this stream that I'm bringing up of you and Keisha is about specifically about Marianne Williamson and her appearance on RBN. But I do wanted to use it as sort of just the beginning point of the discussion of how the left is doing as a Black person who considers themselves left, regardless of whatever people call you. How do you view that from your perspective? But let's start with some of what you said and you and your sister talked about in this video. So let's listen. Whenever you want me to stop it somewhere, I will, and then I'll stop it at points also.
Kind of also what Marianne said too, like, and everybody's kind of saying this thing where it's like, well, we agree on like most things, so that should be good enough. And yeah, there is not this effort to earn our vote. Like, what's that other 10%, and why aren't you willing to discuss it? But also,
I do want to stop it here, because I actually don't think, because this is something people say all the time. I brought the same point up that you make here. People are always saying, we agree on most things. I actually don't believe that. We agree on the publicized left small group of things. But there's so many other topics and conversations that are not included in when we're saying we're pretty much on the same page. Because I just feel like, you're talking Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage, some climate stuff, like, yeah, all of that stuff we agree on. But do we really agree on war? Do we really agree on the police state? Do we really, agree on dismantling and destroying and rebuilding these institutions? like I don't see that, necessarily as agreement. So for me, I think we just agree on a handful of things, and that's to me is why it's so contentious, because we disagree on so many.
But also because I think we have to keep moving on certain things. I mean, like we already know, the staples, because of, thankfully, what we did get out of the Bernie movement was understanding that we're all on the same page for what you just listed about, Medicare for all and $50 minimum wage and all of these kind of things. But now, the war wasn't an issue when we were organizing back then. So now it's not just, oh, we agree on these other things, like how she was, her answer to how to deal with the Ukraine war and continuing to fund that. That was something that we didn't have back then. And the answer just wasn't adequate. And it doesn't line up with what we're supposed to be fighting for. So, I didn't feel like that was a little thing.
I think like I said, I watched so much content yesterday. I think you made a similar point. Like, if we didn't have this war, we would still be thinking like she was the 2020 Marianne Williamson, which is a great point.
Yeah, I think I think Keish said that, which is, like we wouldn't know that.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's in this clip, but we'll see. Let's listen a little more.
I think because I saw another from the Vanguard interview, Marianne's answer to a similar question was kind of more like, well, it depends on how the Democratic Party treats me. And it's like, I don't have another, however much money I gave to AOC and Bernie. I don't have a job now.
You see how you talk like that? I do that too. Like, I do a lot of this. That's how I know you Sagittarius.
Again, like I don't have money, time. I'm not giving it to people who are, not going to try to earn my vote. But the biggest thing is there's no way for us to keep accountability for once they get in. The issue is that AOC gave her donation money to a candidate who's a Democrat, but who doesn't support Medicare for all. So why should I give you my money again? Why should I give anybody my money?
Yeah, I feel like Marianne she acted like she almost like didn't understand the question, kind of. Like she was like, me? Like, I mean, I can't believe that. No, it's pretty par for the course that each one of them so far, starting with Bernie, of course, but then all the rest of them too, have just kind of like, sold us a bill of goods and then gone off and done whatever it is they wanted and not ever followed through with anything truly progressive. So to try to you're tapping from the same pool of people. Like Marianne Wilson isn't trying to get Republicans. Like she's trying to get these same, the same people that have been progressive for, 6 years or however long it is now. So that definitely rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, I can't think of a lot of people who would then be like, oh, okay, yeah, let me donate to you or let me support you. I don't know.
Here's something, and I'm not trying to be a downer, because I do like that I like that she's going to run against Biden. Biden is terrible. I think she's probably not the strongest candidate, but what other candidates are there? I'm comparing her to whom? But my biggest issue is the answer should be, I'm going to go obviously work through the Democratic Party because we are in a two-party system and they own everything. But when they screw me over, which I know that they will, I am going to destroy that party. And it should have been easy for somebody like Marianne Williamson to say, because she's not political. She has a full career outside of politics. She's not going to be ruined if she goes against the Democrats. It's going to be whatever.
And I wanted to land on this point, and you make a awesome point. And now I know Marianne Williamson through politics. I literally didn't know who she was 16, 17 months ago. I didn't know who she was. So since being with RBN, I found out about Marianne Williamson. But you know her, or do you know of her outside of politics? Like, all of her other stuff besides that? Were you accustomed to her before her run in 2020 is my question.
She's from Oprah, she's from the Oprah world. And I didn't know that much because, my mom watched it, maybe more my dad or something like that. But I knew that she was not, I was like, who is this woman? And then she's got a ton of books. And so to me, it's just like she could approach politics the same exact outsider lane that Trump did, where he doesn't, okay, fine, whatever. He has the WWE, he has NBC, The Apprentice, he has his own audience, like something like an Oprah audience, being on the Oprah book club. I'm sure she's in with Goop and all that kind of stuff. Like that is not going to be ruined, if she, well, I guess maybe it would be if she goes against the Democratic Party. So that's why, I don't know. It just seems to me like it's more like if you're not going to go against the Democratic Party, then it's just to sell more books. I mean,
yeah, it's to bring up your stature. And here goes Sabby saying, I knew Marianne from Oprah. Now let's think back. Who has Oprah brought to the world for us? Magnet Oz, or whatever his name is, Dr. Oz, Marianne Williamson, Dr. Phil. I'm not sure about her track record here. I'm not sure about exactly about her track record, but
she loves Tyler Perry.
Yeah,
and
I don't know about that. I don't know about I don't like to critique, Black artists too much in public, but let's just say he's not my favorite, Tyler Perry. So we'll leave it there. But let's listen a little more to this exchange.
Ever to her. So it's odd to me, especially because it seems like, to me, she's just her own entity who's very different than the Democratic Party. But if you're not willing to make that separation and say, oh yeah, if they screw me over, it's war, and I'm gonna start a third party, and I'm exactly what Trump.
That's exactly what Nick and I's reaction was like at that same point was like, you should, the point in the Vanguard interview is what I'm referring to, is like your answer should have been no, it should have been hell yeah, like I'm running a dirty break and I'm making it public. Like you said, she's not a career politician. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like she's doing something so that she can have something in the future. This is just some I don't know, some hobby or some sort of thing she wants to do and have it part of her resume. But do you think she really believes she can win? Do you think that?
No. And I don't. So to me also, that's another thing it's a bit like insulting to my intelligence. Like, okay, I know I'm a waitress or whatever. That's the last job I had. But also an operations manager.
That was a joke. Are you a stand-up comedian too?
I was, but it's expensive to stay in LA,
Yeah, it is. Because I was gonna say you could do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, oh shit, sorry, I got a little distracted. I just feel like Marianne, she's not gonna push Biden, she's not gonna go against Biden. So to me, it's insulting to my intelligence, to think that you're there for any more reason than really to up your own status, and to think that we're supposed to feel bad for being insulted. I felt like she was surprised by how hard Nick came, but it's do you understand that we don't have the resources to wait, so we're going to go back and forth and do this dance. People are rude to people in customer service. People are rude to people at the drive-through of things. So I don't understand why you're not allowed to be rude to a politician. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense.
I don't get that either. I don't get the natural reaction that people have in protecting, politicians. I don't get it, but hey, I guess to each his own. Here's a good comment. Miriam is more cut out for a suburban therapist, and that's not a shot. Like a therapist is, some people need therapy in suburbia. But to your point earlier in this clip, she's not right for the moment, and you kind of alluded to that. Like she just doesn't feel strong enough. You know what I'm saying? We got the Nord Stream pipeline being blown up. We got Ukraine. We got literally the homeless epidemic is getting crazier. We got them passing just outrageous kind of new laws. And then we're going to have Marianne Williamson. She's not, adequate. And when she also believes in the Ukraine war, she also believes in some of the support for Israel. It just seems, inadequate for the moment, to your point in the video. where am I at? Okay, let's play a little more because you talk a little more and go into a little more detail here.
Trumped it. The whole playbook is right there, and the fact that nobody's willing to do that is then so you guys are just going to go along with what the Democrats do.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I totally agree. So, okay, let's
Hey,
look at some of the
Gamer
comments.
for Life. I
Gamer
think
for
he's here
Life
too.
07 says, I no longer trust Marianne. I no longer support Marianne. She's a rich Zionist. I don't know. This is interesting. I mean, I feel like she's been out of the fray for a while, so I don't have like an updated sense of what her views are. But this is like making me question it because well, see, this is the thing. If she would have just flown under the radar, I would have gone, oh, okay, this is the Marianne Wilson of 2 years ago or whatever. So I wouldn't have, or not even a year ago, I wouldn't have even had a question. But now I'm like, oh, now do I need to look into this? Like that's what it's making me wonder. Like did something change? Jenna Colby says she's a grown woman thinking about running for president. Why must the expectation be that someone in this position be treated gently? Like, yeah.
And that's the point that you made. Like, why can't you be rude? Why aren't we expected to be rude to some of these people, especially people who are propping up the blue and the red game? So to your point, Courtney.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you have to walk around being rude, of course, but like, when you know that someone is, I think that also sometimes people think that if you're on the left or something, like you're sometimes soft or not going to you're not going to, strongly stand, for what the point you want to get across or hold somebody's feet to the fire because there's just a lot of civility politics sometimes. And, a lot of that being polite is how these politicians are able to dance around and wiggle out of being able to really give us a strong answer. And they waste a lot of our time that way.
Yeah, even in that interview with Sabby, Nick, and Marianne, I remember I was producing in the back. I remember saying, like, she is literally like, I can't remember the phrasing, but she's grandstanding, gaslighting. She was trying to buy time. She knew she only had 20 minutes. So he would ask a question and she wouldn't even answer. She would say all this stuff and then shouting out Sabby during the question. It was really weird. And it was clear that's what she was trying to do. And but it's good that other people picked up on it. To me, that was the first rude part.
Right.
You not answering the question and trying to dodge it is being rude. So to me, he wasn't being rude. I wouldn't even classify it. He was just mirroring what she was doing. Because if she just answered the question, he wouldn't have been like, well, trying to, ask the question again or push back. He would have had the answer and then moved on to the next question. So I think she kind of brought the harder questioning on herself, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it as well.
Yeah, it's a sad thing.
I totally agree. I mean,
yes,
you need to. They should, and especially coming on like, I mean, did she not know what she was getting herself into going on RBN? Like, I mean, part of what they do is like because like, what's the harm in asking the question? Maybe they'll never come out again. Who cares? But you got that one question in, so.
Because what's the point of keeping somebody around who's going to screw you over eventually anyways? It's like, what's the point? That's how I am right now as an adult. I'm like, listen, I'm probably going to say something that's going to be a friendship ender. And I'll be like, okay, well, fuck you then, I guess. And then good.
That's so Sagittarius. That is so Sagittarius. I probably will say something and you be mad. Okay, fuck it. I'm out of here then. Bye.
Take it or leave it, baby. This
you gotta have a rough exterior with Sagittarius. You gotta have a rough exterior in conversation. It's not personal. It's just this is how we talk. We're not sugarcoating shit for the conversation. But let's finish out this part here. I think you're ending the part that we wanted to cover here.
Then it's done. I'm not gonna waste a bunch of time and energy with something that you're going to end up screwing me over anyways. Like that's how people feel. They feel like they've been in a traumatic relationship. And for somebody who talks so much about love and energy and all of this stuff, it's like, how do you not feel how we feel betrayed? And that you're connected to Bernie, you're connected to the squad. You are.
Right. And why wouldn't you play up then also if those are your traits to be like this, like woo-woo kind of, that's totally her vibe. Like, it's like, maybe she was just having an off day or something, but she seemed quite perturbed, I guess.
I love this.
Well,
very curt.
She did really
Okay, let's see. We got
well.
one more here. I didn't.
Before that,
Okay. All right. So that was the place. I didn't have my timestamp up to know. I think that was the place because from what I remember, that I was gonna kind of pause it for us to kind of finish out this segment. And you're open to her running. It doesn't sound like you're enthusiastic about her, and you understand that she doesn't have a chance of winning, but you feel like her running is a good thing. And to that point, as long as she's not trying to extract money from the working class, I don't see an issue. Like, run. Anybody run. Everybody run. It's the part when you're saying, hey, working class people, can you come out and do this? Can you come out and give me money? It's like, wait a minute. Are we supposed to give you another several hundred millions of dollars just for you to do what you said, Courtney, in that last part, just to come and fuck us over and again in the end, where you're just gonna, hey, Democratic Party, Joe Biden, let's go, guys. Like, or is that all you? You know what I mean? That's all you're gonna do. So, great point.
Yeah. And I don't want people to be guilting people either. It's like these are very logical reasons to not be enthusiastic. I'm not going to be, and this is another approach I've been taking as well, which is I'm finding some peace in, is if I don't agree with something, I just simply, sometimes just don't say anything, and or if I'm going to do something, I just don't even have to explain it. I just am like,
that sounds just like me. Because that sounds just like me. It's like, now, then I'm just not gonna say nothing. Because if I disagree, you're not gonna want to hear what I want to say. So I'll be quiet.
Also, there's just so much energy on the left spent with guilting people into certain things or whatever, rather than making actual motion for action, for real action. And it's just like, if people want to support Marianne, that's fine. But I'm just saying, don't guilt other working class people who don't have a lot of resources to be like, if we don't support Marianne, like Marianne has a very rich network to pull from.
Right.
So I don't guilt me. Don't guilt me.
Oprah, but what's unique, or what we didn't discuss, and I'm not sure in your discussion if you two brought up, you and Keisha brought this up, but she's not going to have any support from any of the progressive establishment sort of people. We're talking the Bernies. We're talking they literally will have to support Joe Biden. So how is that? Like, Bernie they like to say he got real close, but Bernie was successful in what he did because he literally had every progressive Democrat on his side. So how do you think it would go for her when she doesn't have necessarily she might have Nina Turner, but so maybe she have Nina Turner, Crystal Ball, and Kyle, but she's not going to have the Ilhan. She's not going to have the Pramila. She's not going to have the Bernie. She's not going to have the Rokan. Not that any of Rokanas are good, but she's not going to have any progressive, like, establishment elected person that's able to support her. How do you think that would, how do you think it would go? Go ahead.
Okay. When you said it that way and laid it out like that, it made her sound more appealing.
Really? Because none of the establishment progressives would be backing her. Gotcha. So can you speak to that point that you're making?
Because, and that's why that outsider, anti-establishment, because that's really what we need to be, this left-right whole thing. I thought we were kind of getting past that.
Trying to get away from that.
Yeah, there's so much where the elites, continue to enrich themselves at every single turn. It cannot be denied, but she's also, I feel like, an elite. So, but if she wanted to, that would be very good for her to like take that outsider lane and be like, look, see, even these people didn't support me. And you know why? Because they voted for funding, the Iron Dome. They voted for sending more money to Ukraine and upping police budgets and the Capitol Police budget. She could use that stuff against them if they don't support her. That would be great, but she's not going to.
But she supports all of that stuff.
Exactly.
That's the problem. So let's kind of move a little bit off of Marianne Williamson and talk more about what you see. It's been a trying 12 months, to say the least, for people who aspire to be left or aspire to change the world for the good, the United States for the good. It's been trying, especially in the representation of those people who are supposed to be on our side, from the breaking of the rail strike to voting for Ukraine funding. So, but from your perspective, like where are we as a left, and like how do we get better? Like, is there a way to get better? Is there a pathway to a better left to strengthen our ties and to get better at what we do so we can get better results? Any part, all of that, if you want to address.
Yeah. I would say that the past few days, with what's been happening in East Palestine with the train derailment and just this huge natural disaster, environmental disaster, the way that people have been covering it, the journalism that's been happening, the interviews that's been happening, that reminded me more of the left that I joined a few years ago, rather than kind of, I don't know if it's because we don't have, we don't talk enough about, I think, like cultural issues, women's issues, building families, kind of these things that the right does talk about. And I think that that's a big gap for us. And so when it's not an election year, the right has all of this other stuff to talk about, really in like a nuanced way, where I feel like sometimes we're still debating, like, okay, about what parties and stuff to solve, where we're not even hashing out what we really need. Like what we were talking about, the fibroids, like if we were having more of these discussions about chemical relaxers, like that's a real bill that we could be pushing. That's really something we could say, hey, make this happen. Let's make this happen. Those are real actionable items, but we're not having those conversations in these gaps. And I think that part of it is because, just a lot of the voices that we have either don't have kids or aren't part of a family unit. They live on their own. It's not a lot of people who are leading voices, I guess, don't live more of this like everyday life where we need to be talking more about those issues. Because I think that's sometimes where we lose people on the left. But when I see this hardcore journalism that's been happening and like interviewing people, and Status Quo, Status Quo interviewed Erin Brockovich, like that was so powerful. And she was saying, to don't forget to take things into our own hands and do our own research, and that nobody is going to be advocating for us. And that's the biggest thing. So I think if we could try to like fill some of those gaps rather than just focusing on when an election happens or the midterms or who's the most pure or who's right or wrong, we could really gain some numbers, because we could be talking about some stuff with some substance, because the right is out here at school board meetings. The right is out here, these books are getting banned, but I didn't hear us even talking about getting involved with who. Do we have anybody? They have people who are like, this is a school board lady mom, and they get out there and do this stuff. So I think that there are these gaps, where we forget that we also need to be reaching people where they are, and these issues do matter to people because it's things that are happening in their everyday lives, not just the overall stuff, with numbers and data.
What I hear what you're saying, and I don't know if this is it, but I hear strategy and enthusiasm is a gap between left and right, or maybe conservatives and some more progressive. It's that it's lacking a strategy, because you keep referring to the right. They're at school board meetings, they're showing up. That's a strategy.
Yeah.
And also it takes effort. It takes the want to do it. So it seems like enthusiasm is also lacking. And I wonder if that's because people on the left are sitting back like, the squad is going to take care of this. The elected progressives are going to help us. So I don't need to do any of these things. Or is there something else? Like, do you attribute this gap or this lack of doing things? Because it's so illustrated even in the Freedom Caucus versus the squad. That is a perfect illustration of what you're saying. Look what the right did with the same thing. They extracted things that some of us don't like, but look at the difference. We have the squad left who refuse to do force a vote. They didn't show up, and that's what you're speaking to. They're not even showing up to school board meetings. So what is this? What do you attribute this? Because this is a perfect like national example, analogy to use the Freedom Caucus and the Squad, and how that's just a perfect illustration of how the left don't even show up. We don't even show up. And why do you think that is, if you want to speak to that?
Well, I think I was listening to Savvy's stream. It was so good. She did this great analysis of like Bree on a bad faith, and she was saying, you know, like we haven't had any wins, and I think that that's just such an amazing point, because so much of our enthusiasm is gone because we haven't had any wins. And she's so right. You know, the right is organized and the left isn't. And think about this: when Bernie dropped out, no one knew where to go. Everybody kind of, you know, went into their own little corners or whatever. But when Trump is gone, he hasn't faded into the background. He did a little bit, but I mean, he was fighting for himself. Remember when AOC was, you know, they were calling her crazy and all these different things because she wouldn't stop talking about the Green New Deal and all this other stuff. And she didn't care what the conservatives called her because she was going to be right. She didn't care what the Democrats called her. It makes me think about like Marjorie Taylor Greene or something. Like, people say she's crazy, but her constituency loves her because she is willing to go to bat for them. We have nobody who is willing to put their, you know, career on the line or their reputation on the line, or doesn't want to be, you know, AOC is doing it now, but in this very shallow, hollow way. I mean, you know, if you're on the left, you can't believe anything that she's saying, because she's not actually going up against power, you know, whereas
Bernie's doing the same thing.
Exactly. But Marjorie Taylor Greene went up against that power. So you can trust that when she's saying this stuff, it's not coming from just a grandstanding place. That's really what she believes. But we didn't get that with, you know, with the Squad, and they're not even willing to make themselves look like fools for us. Which, sorry, you kind of have to do. And there's a lot more media stuff they could do. They just dropped the ball everywhere. So on that front, you know, the more national front, I think that people are just apathetic because we haven't gotten these wins, and we're also just kind of lost, not knowing where to go.
What kind of wins? What things would you say the left would even consider a win? Because I think Nick and I kind of talked about briefly of that question, and it was just we basically talked and said the right can win according to the ruling class because the country moving right is okay with donors, with, you know, politicians. That's okay, but the country moving left is not. But that still doesn't answer why people who are left, who aren't even trying. Like, yeah, maybe the country and the ruling class and they don't want to move right, but what does that have to do with AOC and Bernie? Like, why aren't you doing something to move things to the left? And I mean, we must include Bernie in this because Bernie does the virtue signaling the best, because he's more vocal with it. People still point out, look at Bernie, he's saying this. Why is Bernie doing all this now that the Republicans are over the House now? Why is he introducing the bill now? I'm introducing the bill to do this. Why didn't you do that when you had both houses and you had the presidency? It's because he's not literally trying to get that done. And that speaks to what you're saying. Why is all of the people who are left not wanting to produce wins, do you think I'm trying to get to, is it all self-preservation? Is it all the fact 100%. That I don't want to be torn down and that's why I'm not doing it? Go ahead.
100%. This is just, we should have seen it from the start. Like, these people were careerists from the start. AOC, if you have a bartender who never curses, sorry, we shouldn't have believed her from the start. From the start. I was like,
see, that's a joke. That's a stand-up joke right there. If you have a bartender, and I was a bartender for a while, a couple of years. Yes, yeah, a bartender that doesn't curse.
You're gonna slip a little bit every now and then. Come on. It's ridiculous. And the fact that, like, you're not even allowed to be skeptical because you're not going along with the team or whatever. But I mean, along with wins, I would say it would have been considered a win just to see them go against the leadership. If they had ever blocked up anything, like they said, when the two bills that they couldn't separate, during COVID, if they had really stuck with that, that would have been a win. Even if they had lost, people like don't like Vouch and all these people, they think that why would it matter to us? We know that they don't want anything progressive or anything to move to the left. We already know that. But what we were promised was that they would fight. And that's really where that apathy is coming from, because people aren't expecting Medicare for all to pass tomorrow, but they are expecting you to cause a scene or tell us to come cause a scene or get something that whatever you need us to do, but they're not even organizing people or talking to people who do organize people, you know, like, so none of this energy is moving in any kind of forward motion because they don't want to fight. I mean, it's crazy.
The win is the fight.
Why
the win is the fight.
Yeah.
The win. So the win. This is something JB also talks about. This. The win is the fight. Like, we don't need a legislative win. So we don't need you to sell out so you can get some. Oh, we passed this legislation that's so watered down. We just need you to fight. The fight is the win. Now imagine. This is why Bernie, to me, is the biggest virtue singer. Bernie had millions of people, conservatives, rural, city, urban, all types of races, young, old. He had the perfect coalition. But Obama came in and said, "Oh, let's go, bro. Let's go, bro." And he was like, "Oh, I'm out of here. Guess I'm out of here." And he didn't do anything. Like all he had to do was say everybody. So now Joe Biden is elected. 50 states, we're going to do it. Keep donating money. We're going to do 50 states tour. We're going to hit, 10 cities in every state. Britt, come out. That's what he should have done. And the reason he did it, that is so mind-boggling. And you were going to chime in. Go ahead, Courtney.
Just to speak to his constituency, when we were working at Chateau Marmont, we would always go and after work I would always go have beers with the cooks out by the garbage. and they were always like, I was really on the Bernie tip and I was telling them about him. They were like, man, if they had been to jail, but they were like, if I could vote, I would vote for Bernie. And then my other friend who was a veteran, and he, liked Obama or whatever, I guess, but then he voted for Bernie in the primary, but then he voted for Trump. And there's too many people who think that the left is not able to capture all of these different kinds of people, but we are. A lot of the things that we want are reasonable, but a lot of our tactics push people away. A lot of this, sometimes you just hear people are like, I just can't even. I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's too much. I've been that person. At a party, you don't understand. If we don't vote for and then that's not the way. I pushed a lot of people away like that. I'm trying to calm down, So all I'm saying is there are other ways we could bring people into the left by having sometimes more cultural conversations, having more, topics about actually what goes on in the home, in a marriage, I don't know, have a, couples conversation or something. I'm not married, but I think having a strong family is very important, and also something that maybe if it was talked about more, would happen more. I don't know. It's really an economic issue. But
I think it's too many people on the left, and I said this before, and this is something that turns me off back when I said there was a critique of Ice Cube when he was saying something one time, and I was like, I don't know if I'm part of the left. And this is this. The left thinks because I'm right, that's it. That's all I need to be. Yeah. I'm right. That's it. There's no explanation. Listen, they're evil. I'm right. What do you mean? Get on board, or that's it. Yeah, it's that's it. It's done. What do you mean? This is logical, right? And I've been a purveyor, a victim of that too. I've done it myself, and I had to catch myself. No, I hate, and it's also something that among some Marxists, they're like that. Oh, I know theory, so I hate that. I know something, so I'm better or different than you, and that's what it feels like a lot of people on the left. Or it could be this category where it's you feel like it's so important, you so energized. Maybe this was you. It's I'm so energized about this that I just want to tell everybody. You get what I'm saying? It could be that, And that's hard to stop. Like, you're just so enthusiastic. Is that what you were? Is that why you're
Yeah.
laughing?
Oh yeah. And but I wouldn't do it with what you're saying. It's like we have to have some finesse with the way we're doing. I would just be like, no, the world is gonna be over because and people are like, I'm trying to relax.
Yeah, maybe Sagittarius is the wrong people, because I'm like that too. Like, I get frustrated sometimes when I do explain it calmly, or like, and they don't go, oh yeah, that's they don't get an epiphany, because I got an epiphany, like to me, and it feels like this should happen. So that's a little frustrating. So maybe Sagittarius needs to play a different role.
But some of that also comes from, I think, just like people. It's hard to change your mind. It's hard to also say that you were wrong about something. So like, that's not going to be something that someone's going to, if somebody does change their mind the first time that they kind of talk to me, I mean, I'm very persuasive, so maybe not me, but if somebody does change their mind like the first time, like, I don't know, that person maybe doesn't have a lot of thoughts of their own. But, a lot of people, and especially because the conversations we're having, there's so many layers to them, it might take a couple of times really discussing that topic. So I think that we've got to be careful of just being like, oh, this person is a lost cause, or we got to push this person out, or shut down that conversation over here, because I think we need more.
Yeah, I'm not for shutting down any conversation, in particular with people who disagree. Like, I just don't get that. And another thing about the American left, because it's not steeped in ideology, it's steeped in just particular topics. That's what make me left. So if you're not part of that topic, you're not left. And because a lot of people, what would you call Lula? Lula's not pro-choice.
Right.
We call him left. So Americans, United Statesans, is that what we say? People from the United States, that part they just seem to not get or understand. But
he had,
go ahead.
But he had the best response to Biden's, request to give Ukraine more weapons and such, that's the response we would want, and that's the thing, like, like the fact that he's not pro-choice. There are people who think that. I mean, I'm pro-choice, but one of my friends is very, very pro not choice, and he tells me that all the time, and he doesn't care. But I think
black people, when people who are churchy people, and my family's churchy, so we come in contact with people who are against abortion all the time. Like, they're intertwined in our lives all the time, and we agree on 90% of everything else, but there's stuff we don't agree. And if people do this all the time at work, and I don't understand why they can't apply this to everything else. They do this all the time, because people at work, how many times I work with a person that's a conservative, a person that's this completely different, but we are fine. Like, it's no, you know what I'm saying? It's no problem. And they know what I believe in. I know what they believe in. We kind of throw jokes at each other, what everybody believes in. It's all in good fun. And to me, maybe the left has lost that. And somebody in the comments said, the left is obsessed with information instead of conversation, instead of connecting with people. Here's a receipt. You know what I'm saying, on Twitter? Receipt. Instead of engaging with people, just to understand, we're ready to say, wait a minute, you don't believe this, and this? You're not on my team. I'm about to criticize. Like, that's all we are about, not having just a conversation.
Yeah.
Any of your final comments on this topic, and then we'll kind of close it out here.
Yeah, I think that there's a bit of this like exposing element sometimes, like, you're not going to believe this definitely proves that this person is not on the left. You can't believe anything that they ever said before because you're not going to believe this one. I mean, seriously, I like, and we're not supposed to be against censorship, and and I think that's one thing I want to end on is just that attitude, of I've seen too much of kind of quelling conversation or silencing things, and we should, you should be okay with just saying, hey, here's where I stand on this thing, and hopefully be able to have a respectful conversation. And we lose so much information about the other side when we shut down information. It's like, how are we supposed to protect ourselves against the other side's strategies if we don't engage with them or even see what's going on?
That is a great point to end that segment on. And I want to thank you, Courtney, for coming on for almost, just about an hour to have a conversation. Hopefully we can do this again in the future. Bring you on. I'll reach out. It's just particular topics I feel like you and I vibe on. And I think people saw in this conversation today. But where can people find you? What are you up to? How can people reach out to you? Let people know what's coming up next for Courtney Banks and Keisha also.
Yeah, so I'm one part of the Banks sisters. My sister Keisha, we do videos together. We're gonna be on the West Coast. I think we're gonna try to do some videos about LA because I lived there for like a decade. And so I'm interested in what's going on currently there. But we make things like really fun, of course. We're jokesters, and we try to talk to people about things in a very related way. Another thing is we helped organize Camp Dada, which was one way to try to get people offline who are independent and left. And actually, another person on the left, Natalie, she is trying to organize one on the West Coast in the Washington State area. So if you're interested in helping her, she definitely wants to get that going. So look out for the Camp Dada's Twitter for that information. And yeah, for us, like we're going to be doing, trying to fill some of the gaps that I said. I think that would be wrong of me to not try to fill in some of the gaps that I see myself. So women's issues and cultural issues, maybe interviewing our parents for some different different ages, because they're old and they think that everything is just super easy and they don't understand why anybody's broke right now. So yeah, but I really appreciate you having me, and this was a great conversation.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
YouTube, Bank Sisters on YouTube and Instagram, and we put up funny videos and stuff.
Yeah, great follow, great conversations between the two of you. Make sure you check out Courtney and the Bank Sisters on YouTube. Shout out Courtney. I'm sorry, Keisha, who's not here today, but maybe next time, hopefully I can get both of you to come in. I'm going to drop you to the back and you can check out whenever you like or hang out. So I'll drop you to the back. Thank you for coming. And I'm going to be winding down in just a moment. Let me make sure I covered all the topics. There might be one topic I haven't gotten to. I'm not sure I will be. So Seymour Hersh, we covered. Oh, Bernie Sanders. We got the other one. So Bernie Sanders' story may be the only one we did not cover. Let me see if I have his video readily available. If it is, we could quickly talk about it real quick. Yes. Okay. Trying to find where I'm at. Okay, here is where I am. Yeah. So let's get to, where did I save that? Actually, I'll just type in Bernie Sanders. I will. Oh, Courtney, tag me here. Do it. All right. So let me go to my bookmarks, because I'm trying to get more accustomed to putting everything in my bookmarks, because I have things everywhere. I'll have it on email account. I'll have it here. I'll have it there. Oh, let's watch the video. This is a funny video of Dianne Feinstein announces her retirement. Let's see if that's the funny one. And then we'll cover the Bernie story. But let's listen to this. This video talking about Dianne Feinstein finally announces she retires, but they asked her about her retirement and she didn't know. I think this is the video that covers it. Yeah. So let's listen. Actually, even though it's short, it might be a 3-minute clip. Let's make this Dianne Feinstein retires. So let's call it this, and we can begin here. So Dianne Feinstein made an announcement that she will be retiring, but her office, I should say, And when they asked her, she didn't really know about it. It was kind of embarrassing. This is all on video, so we'll get to it. But let's listen to this part first, which is the announcement on corporate, not on corporate media, but corporate media talking about the announcement of the retirement. And here we go. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. A second here. Let's refresh. Case study QB's video. Not sure what's happening. Moving a little slow, so looks like we're gonna have to start this over. And oh, here it goes. All right, here. So I didn't have to scroll down too far. All right, we'll begin the video here. Dianne Feinstein says she's going to retire. Let's listen.
Feinstein has announced she will retire at the end of her term. In a statement, Feinstein said she will use the remainder of the term working to, quote, accomplish as much for California as I can. Her decision was anticipated. She is 89 years old, the oldest sitting senator. But when asked about her announcement by reporters, the senator appeared not to know her office already had released a statement.
Well, I haven't made that decision. I haven't released anything. It will be my plan. You put out the statement? I didn't know they put it out.
I mean, it's not humorous in the sense that she has an ailment. Obviously, she should not be working. It's humorous in that they didn't have this together before. I mean, or maybe they did. I mean, this is terrible. This is elder abuse. But I mean, the same thing is happening with Joe Biden. But let's rewind a little bit in here. This is ridiculous.
By reporters, the senator appeared not to know her office already had released a statement.
Well, I haven't made that decision. I haven't released anything. It will be my plan. You put out the statement? I didn't know they put it out. So it is what it is. I think the time has come. I have a whole other year. I have things that are underway. I expect to achieve them. I hope. Yeah. And so we'll see.
You'll remember potential successors to Feinstein did not wait for her decision to announce bids for the seat. Congressman Adam Schiff and Congresswoman Katie Porter launched their Senate campaigns last month. Congresswoman Barbara Lee also planning to kick off her bid for the seat. We are told by the end of the month. That's according to a source familiar. Feinstein told reporters yesterday she had not made a choice on whom to endorse. However, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi has, telling reporters earlier this month if Feinstein decided not to run, she would support Adam Schiff, and she now will do that with Feinstein's announcement. So, Alexi McCammon, it's going to be a busy, crowded field pursuing Senator Feinstein's seat, all with progressive credentials inside California. How do you suspect this will shake out? How do they separate from each other?
You know, that's the interesting thing is that while the 2024 Senate map is pretty terrible for Democrats across the board, this seat in California is almost a guaranteed win for progressives, not just because of the field, as you mentioned, and the way that's shaping up, but because, as you know, progressives and even the California Democratic Party have been trying to get rid of Feinstein for years, really in earnest since 2018, when the Democratic Party in California voted against endorsing her that year for the nominee for their party. So we're going to see these folks take different lanes. Of course, Representative Porter bills herself as someone who fights for workers and middle-class families. Adam Schiff, Congressman Schiff, has become this TV critic, this anti-Trump TV critic, leading the country through these impeachment hearings and establishing himself as sort of a check on those MAGA forces. And of course, Congresswoman Lee, previously considered to be a potential pick for Biden's VP, a Black woman, which many people I talk to talk about the importance of electing another Black woman in that race, of course, because of Vice President Harris taking her role now. But there are a number of factors to play out. And the last thing we'll be looking for is Pelosi and how her influence shapes the race and whether that affects donors, especially in California.
There's a lot.
It's all about donors. And that's how Pelosi instilled her fear. That's how she ruled, because she had the pocketbook. She had the purse, she had the bag, and she can prevent you from getting money for your election or severely change, alter what you can get. Pretty sickening, but it's funny. And Case Study QB makes the point in this clip, in the caption, how the young lady on the right makes a reference like progressives are a shoe-in. What progressive? Who is she talking about? Katie Porter is not a progressive. Adam Schiff is not a progressive. And if you want to call Barbara Lee one, I guess so. But I'm not jumping for joy for any of them. And these will be my senators. I'm not jumping for joy for any of these clowns. Let's move on. Like I said, that was a very short segment, but that's the Dianne Feinstein retires. Now let's go to the Bernie Sanders, and then we're gonna get out of here a little bit early. Why does it feel like it's earlier than normal? Oh, because I usually go 2.5 hours instead of 2 hours. Okay. All right. So that's the reason why. Let's look at Bernie Sanders, because Democrats become way more radical when they're not in the majority, and Bernie Sanders is also proving it with, oh, he's bringing this bill out, that bill out, and so on and so forth. But people are buying it. Oh, Bernie Sanders is great, and look what he's doing. But he's doing this when they're out of power. So there's a couple of comments on Bernie Sanders. Let's first, yeah, I'll come back to that one. Let's not start there. Let's start here with this one. Do I want to start with that one? No. I think I want to start with the Bernie Sanders and his latest bill. Let's start with that one. So let's find that video. Bernie Sanders and his bill. And then I'll come back to the second video that you saw there on Bernie. I don't think I don't think I should start with that first one. But let's start here. So we're going to be moving on, Aaron, to probably the last topic of today. Dems more radical when in minority. And Bernie Sanders is, like I said, one of the best at playing this role. And here, and I'll just read just some of the top, search results that come up when I type in Bernie Sanders and bill. So new, Bernie Sanders lays down a marker for the progressive position on Social Security. Just keep going. Boost benefits and close the funding gap entirely through taxes on higher earners. And that shit ain't going nowhere because the Republicans run the House. Why wouldn't Bernie introduce this when Pelosi was over the House? When they had power? Why is he introducing this? Why is he being more radical? When they're in a minority, when they know none of this stuff could go through. Now, AOC alluded to this. They like being in the minority. That's when they can bring up their bills. Because they are prevented. It sounds like, and she didn't say this, it sounds like they're prevented from bringing up any of this stuff when they hold all levers of power in government besides the Supreme Court. Here's another one. Salon. Sanders' bill would give teachers $60K minimum wage, fully funded by taxing the rich. Here's another bill that the jackass Bernie is, and I'm calling them that because this is all virtue signaling. This is all virtue signaling. Why are you bringing up bills now? All of these bills, this flurry of bills you're starting to do, Bernie, now that Republicans run the House. Where were these bills when Pelosi had the mallet, had the speaker mallet, or whatever they call it. And he does it so well, people still report it as Bernie just working away. Like Salon. Truth out. Senator Bernie Sanders that he will soon introduce legislation to set minimum annual salaries for U.S. public teachers at $60,000. A change the senator said could be fully financed with progressive changes to the estate tax, which is never going to happen with the Republicans in office. So why is Bernie doing it now? Despicable. This is pretty despicable to me. Oh, this is something else. Now let's listen to that same story. Let's listen to it on. I'm trying to get the news outlet. I can't see. It says ATM. I don't know what news outlet that is, but let's replay it and see what they.
Derek, thank you. Teachers could be getting a pay raise if Senator Bernie Sanders gets his way. He's proposing a bill to use federal funds to require a minimum salary of $60,000 for teachers. The plan is aimed at addressing the nationwide teacher shortage. Derek.
Now, what could be a reason why Bernie would not introduce this bill when they hold all levers of power? Because then people are going to expect it to pass. Because then people are going to say, hey, Joe Biden, what do you think about that bill Bernie put up? You have all levers of power. You're not going to veto it, right? Nancy Pelosi, what's up with the bill that Bernie Sanders wants to introduce? You see how it makes the Democratic leadership have to answer to it? So what does Bernie Sanders and AOC and Pramila Jayapal, all these people who are introducing these bills, Ro Khanna's doing the same thing, introducing all these bills that all they want to do is use it as a campaign tool. Listen, I introduced this bill. I'm very progressive. I introduced this bill, a bill at a time when you knew it wasn't going to get elected, just so you can say you introduced the bill. Stop falling for Bernie Sanders as the agent of that. He is the top person who is doing this. Let's continue, and then we'll get. Oh, am I in the right one? Yeah, I thought. It's not. I thought I was still looking at Bernie. Oh, I must have hit the back button. Sorry, everybody. I hit the back button. That's what happened. All right, and you see some of the same news articles just reposted. Now let's see if there's any other videos on this nonsense, Bernie Sanders. All these bills, everybody want to introduce a bill now. Oh, that Sabby Sab's video came up, but it's not on the topic. Otherwise, I would play it. Here he goes again, saying some stuff that he's not going to fight for. I don't need to play that. Bernie Sanders, man. Bernie Sanders, man, is a fucking joke. Yeah. Is this another? Okay, here. Oh, no, this is old. Okay, so I won't bring that one up. Let's go to Bernie Sanders page. I wanted to kind of just search it and get, because you can get reaction instead of having to click on his thing and then go through it. I guess I'll just do it that way. So Bernie Sanders. Let's go to his. We'll start with his. I think the one with the American flag is his personal. So we'll start here, and then we'll see if anything's here. Doesn't look like. So now let's go to the other one. People. Where's Senator Bernie Sanders? Right, Senator Sanders, right here. Maybe he put it here. I know I saw the video. No, I didn't see that. I didn't click on it, but I know I saw it posted, and I think it'll be coming up. But let's cover some of the things he wants to do. Oh, here it goes. it jogged my memory when I saw the Starbucks. My bad, everybody. It's in my bookmarks. It's a case study video, case study QB video, and that's this one right here. And this is the next one. My bad, everybody.
CEO Howard Schultz has declined an invitation from 11 senators to testify in March on the coffee company's compliance with federal labor laws. It's according to a letter viewed by Reuters. The invitation came from Senator Bernie Sanders, who chairs the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, and was signed by 10 other members of that committee. Now, last week, Senator Sanders accused Starbucks of, quote, fighting workers every step of the way, including refusing to bargain a first contract in good faith, delay tactics, and a significant escalation in union busting. Starbucks said its chief public affairs officer is available to testify.
And the reason, or not one of the reasons I wanted to do this segment with Bernie is because he is so put up as the person for labor out of everybody. But nobody wants to bring up the fact that he was key in expediting the breaking of the rail strike. Bernie Sanders required unanimous consent for that to be passed as quickly as it was. Required unanimous consent. And that's exactly what he did. And I'll pause here and bring up a headline that you can see about Bernie. Recent article, you can go to the World Socialist website. Bernie Sanders, flanked by union bureaucrats, issue pathetic moral appeal to railroad CEOs in press conference. And then this also makes a reference, and this article basically is talking about how he's virtue signaling. He's out trying to act like he's working. None of this stuff was done when he was in power, when the Democratic Party had power. None of this stuff was done. So this is Bernie Sanders. I want to get to. Okay, so let me just read these 3 paragraphs, and it'll be included in this segment, because this is Bernie Sanders. On February 9th, Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders held a live press conference on Twitter calling for paid sick days for American rail workers. The event was co-chaired by Indiana Republican Senator Mike Braun on behalf of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Senate Committee and was flanked with representatives of the major railroad unions. The press conference was an attempt at damage control for the Democratic Party and the trade union apparatus. Damage control. And that's a lot of what Bernie Sanders is doing with these introduction of bills. This is just damage control. None of this stuff will ever happen. And he's not putting up his best fight to make it happen by only introducing these bills when his party, or the party he sheepherds for, is not in power. Let's continue. The press conference was an attempt at damage control for the Democratic Party and the trade union apparatus 2 months after a bipartisan vote in Congress to impose a contract with the railroaders had rejected. The very individual grandstanding in the press conference, Bernie Sanders, as advocates for railroaders, played central roles in the attack on workers' basic democratic rights. Sanders orchestrated a maneuver to add 7 paid sick days, which never had any chance of passing in the Senate over the opposition of Republicans and right-wing Democrats, in order to give Democratic politicians cover as they voted nearly unanimously to impose the deal. Now, this last paragraph. While Sanders did not vote to impose the contract, his support for the vote ensured its rapid passage, as opposition from even one senator, would have been enough to delay a vote under the expedited procedures being used by the Senate. However, 3 House members, and they talk about who voted for it. So Bernie Sanders was key in this breaking a strike. Bernie Sanders was key. But now he's over here virtue signaling like he's here as the best advocate for workers, and he's not. He simply is not. I know that the professional managerial class thinks he is, but he simply is not. And let's finish out the video about the Starbucks and Bernie Sanders. Fast forward just to, does that all the time, just restarts. So let's click on it this time so they can't do that. And play it. And let it play all the way through. It's only a minute.
Declined an invitation from 11 senators to testify in March on the coffee company's compliance with federal labor laws. It's according to a letter viewed by Reuters. The invitation came from Senator Bernie Sanders, who chairs the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, and was signed by 10 other members of that committee. Now, last week, Senator Sanders accused Starbucks of, quote, fighting workers every step of the way, including refusing to bargain a first contract in good faith, delay tactics, and a significant escalation in union busting. Starbucks said its chief public affairs officer is available to testify and is the best person to address workforce policy matters. Of course, the real question is, I believe, given the makeup of that committee, you can subpoena people.
Yeah, why would you turn down an invitation like that? It sounds like a fun party.
Yeah, that was awesome. I love Bernie. Bernie helping the private sector. That's such vast experience with what works.
And they help, conservatives help to make the fantasy of Bernie real. The fantasy that he's really helping real. They make that to be real in the way they describe what he's doing, when they know that he's doing it when he doesn't have the power to get this legislation through. I'm going to play that one more time. Sheer off the fun factor because I thought it was hilarious, but at the end there, let's play it again.
Meantime, Starbucks' CEO Howard Schultz has declined an invitation from an 11.
Now, this might be part of the process. Maybe he's declining an invitation. I want to see when Bernie subpoenas him. I want to see if Bernie will subpoena him. Just subpoena him. Fuck all of this shit. Now, he might be doing this as a step. He has to have him say, no, I don't want to come voluntarily before he subpoenas him. So let's see if Bernie Sanders does that. But I do want to play this one more time as we close.
From 11 senators to testify in March on the coffee company's compliance with federal labor laws. It's according to a letter viewed by Reuters. The invitation came from Senator Bernie Sanders, who chairs the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, and was signed by 10 other members of that committee. Now, last week, Senator Sanders accused Starbucks of, quote, fighting workers every step of the way, including refusing to bargain a first contract in good faith, delay tactics, and a significant escalation in union busting. Starbucks said its chief public affairs officer is available to testify and is the best person to address workforce policy matters. Of course, the real question is, I believe, given the makeup of that committee, you can subpoena people.
Right. So we will be covering, I know I'm going to double back and cover this again. If Bernie Sanders subpoenas him and they have this trial and we see the questions, I'm gonna do a stream and say Bernie Sanders deserves credit for subpoenaing, and maybe I'm saying that wrong, subpoenaing Schultz about this Amazon shit, about the first contract, and brings in Chris Smalls. If he does all of that, if he goes ham, I'll give him credit for that. I'll absolutely give Bernie Sanders credit for that. All of this bill writing is virtue signaling. Now, him bringing subpoena somebody committee, that's something he can really do. All these bills that he's doing is simply virtue signaling, is simply giving cover. Like, no, I am progressive. Yeah, I didn't do anything during the 2 years that we had the power, but now I need to do the next 2 years and show you that I am progressive by introducing a bunch of bills that I know will never even see the light of day whatsoever. But this, subpoenaing somebody, he actually have power. He needs to serve a subpoena, sir, and bring the person in. Bernie gave a great speech after Chris Smalls won Amazon Union in Staten Island. That's nice. All right, so I think we're going to wind it down here. This will be a short segment that we'll cut, probably release it on Friday or the weekend or so. I just want to make sure there's no other breaking news while I'm live here. Let me see what's trending. Actually, let me see what people are tweeting. A couple of people I go to see what they tweet. Nick is one of them. Let's see if Nick tweeted anything recent that would be considered like some breaking news I need to break here before I end the stream. Let's see. Doesn't look like it, but let's read this. What he? Oh, actually, there does seem to be something. Why is AOC afraid to debate Marjorie Taylor Greene? This should be lightweight for any competent lefty, right? Maybe there is something I can cover here. And get it up for everybody quickly here. This isn't YouTube. This isn't YouTube debate me bro stuff. This is elected officials debating public policy. It's super important and should happen more often. Why are Democrats afraid to debate? Now, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is something new. I don't know anything about this. Nick just tweeted about this an hour ago. Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted this. I've challenged AOC to debate me several times, but she's chicken, which she's afraid. It's because none of her ideas are actually her own. It's because AOC is fucking garbage. AOC is a wimp. And so I'll insert this. Marjorie Taylor Greene calls out weak AOC. All right, Aaron, we're going to cut this one. So we can start here. Marjorie Taylor Greene calls out weak AOC yet again. Now, Nick and I have covered this, maybe 2 segments on this, months apart. Marjorie Taylor Greene challenging AOC to a debate, and she's afraid. And I think the last segment I did, AOC responded. I'll try to see if I can find it here. AOC responded to Marjorie Taylor Greene like a couple of weeks ago saying, why don't you debate me? Saying, maybe you forgot, but we were just debating in a committee. AOC was trying to act like them being on a committee together and having committee debates was the same thing as her and AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC debating. That's how weak she is. So let me read Nick's tweet again, and then we'll listen to what Marjorie Taylor Greene says in her appearance on Fox News. Why is AOC afraid to debate Marjorie Taylor Greene? This should be lightweight for any competent lefty, right? This isn't YouTube debate me bro stuff. This is elected officials debating public policy. It's super important and should have happen more often. Why are Democrats afraid to debate? Because they're weak and soft. And he goes on here, and I'll read the full thread before I go to the video. The boutique left keeps making excuses as why AOC shouldn't debate her. Why we don't want to legitimize her? Motherfucker, she is more powerful. She is on more powerful committees than the squad and the largest fundraiser in Congress. She's already legitimate, is the point Nick is making. She is already legit, whether you like it or not. Now engage her, cowards. Now I'm reading it with the emotion that I think he would read it. I'm reading it with emotion, right? despite all the nonsense excuses, the reality is they know AOC is a moron, and any debate, not just Marjorie Taylor Greene, would expose her as a fraud, as the fraud that she is. Nick spitting fire right here. And let's go to the next part. Notice how Shama is confident and would be more than happy to raise awareness about socialist ideas by taking this debate. Why is AOC not as confident? Why is she not interested in raising awareness for left ideas? And he quote tweets Shama, who calls out Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I see your attempts to get AOC to debate are not succeeding. If you'd like to debate an elected socialist rep, I'm happy to oblige. You falsely claim to represent working class people, but in reality, the right-wing policies you argue for hurt American workers. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not taking this fight. Come on, man. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not taking a fight. In the same way Marjorie Taylor Greene knows a real one, when she sees it, knows AOC, we are spotting a fake one when we see it in AOC. She in no way can take on a debate like this. Now let's go back to the video Marjorie Taylor Greene put up here. And this is what Marjorie Taylor Greene says. I've challenged AOC to debate me several times, but she's chicken. It's because none of her ideas are actually her own. It's a short clip. I wonder if I can find the full thing on Fox, if I can find the full thing.
I actually challenged AOC to debates multiple times, and she has refused to debate me. And I wanted to specifically debate her on the Green New Deal. I wanted to challenge her as a successful business owner and an American tax.
Oh my God, I did not know that. The single most important issue on the planet that involves every living creature, whether human or not, is the climate crisis. The clown Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to debate the person who popularized it, and she refuses. This is clown shit. Clownery on the highest level here. I'll let it play through this time.
I actually challenged AOC to debates multiple times, and she has refused to debate me. And I wanted to specifically debate her on the Green New Deal. I wanted to challenge her as a successful business owner and an American taxpayer on her ideas that will completely change the way our country functions, not only with energy, but in our entire economy. But AOC couldn't do it. You want to know why? She's chicken, and she isn't brave enough to defend those ideas because they're not her own. They came out of a think tank, and she just put her name on them. I actually challenged.
That's a fucking joke, man. Like it's just one thing after another that is just tearing down the facade of AOC. If there's any remnants left, it's just dust left of what people thought this person was. You have clown Marjorie Taylor Greene calling you out on the easiest topic to beat her on, which is climate change. I don't understand, how are people still even backing? Like, are there still AOC stands? AOC doesn't really believe it. That's why she won't debate that with her. She just picked, hey, I'm gonna play a leftist. Okay, so I'm playing a leftist, so I believe that. I don't really believe it, but I'm sort of a la carte picking what I believe to make me a leftist. AOC clearly plans to be the new Nancy Pelosi, and that's what we call her too. Clearly, she is here to be the new Nancy Pelosi. But this call out by Marjorie Taylor Greene is pretty eye opening. But Shama and Claire Daly, Women to Love, man, those two are two of my favorite sort of politicians. Let me just see if here is there more? Is there more? Oh, so she was on for the watch my full interview with Sean. Is there a link anywhere? I think you got to have an account with Rumble, do you? Oh, okay. So let's listen to the full interview. So this is the full interview. Can I play it? All right, so I just want the Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, sorry, the AOC part. So, it's all about climate change. So let's listen to it because it gives context to why she's saying she will debate her on climate change. So actually, it's only 6 minutes. We'll listen to it. So let's listen to the entire interview of Marjorie Taylor Greene. One second here. 1 second. I'm waiting for. Oh, my thing is not clicking. I clicked it, but it's not showing. All right, now it's working. Okay, so let's now take this down and bring up the video. It hasn't started yet. Don't worry. This is Sean Hannity, and it's a 6-minute video. The full interview.
More troubling news for whales from New Jersey. Now, this is a brand new video of a dead beach whale, 35 feet long, weighing 29,000 pounds, being moved off the Jersey shore. That was this morning. It is now the 6th dead whale to wash up on a beach in New Jersey since December. There's been some in New York as well, and yet mostly a muted response from the new Green Deal climate cult alarmists. Nothing from AOC, nothing from Al Gore. Same goes for the unfolding toxic chemical disaster in Ohio. It's also killing animals and fish, etc. Not a word about that either. So why not? Here with reaction, Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know, some people talk about, for example, wind turbines contributing to the death of whales and bird life, etc. In that case, nobody wants to seem to talk about that. And then you have this toxic chemical mess in Ohio, in Palestine that we reported on earlier in the program. And I don't hear anything from the new Green Deal climate alarmist cult about what is an environmental disaster.
You see how the weakness of elected left people, progressives, not saying anything. You see how it opens the lane for the right to call them out. If you so fucking down with the Green New Deal, where the fuck are you with this? Which is a legitimate critique by Sean Hannity right here. But you see how these weak milquetoast progressives, their weakness and their inability or unwillingness to fight opens the lane for a right demagogue, for a right populist, for a worse Trump. Sean Hannity and Marjorie Taylor Greene are able to point out to the clowns we call progressives, to the people who are supposedly for climate change, where the fuck are you with the Ohio train derailment? Where the fuck are you with this whale? Where are you? And it makes people who are skeptical of climate change, well, it can't be that important. You tried to act like you gaslit me about climate change. It can't be that important, AOC and the squad and progressives and Democrats, because you're saying nothing about what's happening in East Palestine. Sorry, I blank where it's at, but where the train derailment is. Nothing on that though. Ohio, sorry. Terrible.
By every measure. Why?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know why AOC isn't dressed in white and crying for the dead whales that keep washing on the beach from wind farms that are being placed all over the ocean. And people are calling the alarms over how this is not only killing unknown thousands of bird species, but also causing whales to beach themselves at record numbers. But the real problem, Sean, is Pete Buttigieg. He's the Secretary of Transportation, and he's more interested in equity and inclusion in his hiring practices and grant giving schemes and obviously probably chest feeding or something like that than he is rail safety. And that's where we have real danger in our country. You see, Pete Buttigieg was never qualified for the job. And I believe we need to haul him in our committees and start questioning him over what's actually happening in his department. Because train derailment is happening every single day. And now thousands of people, birds, animals, they're all sick. And we don't know the consequences of this horrible accident in East Palestine. But we have people like Ilhan Omar. She wants to, crack down on corporate greed when it comes to rails and the privately owned sections of rails. But really what we have to.
You see that? You see how they're able to play this lane because they are so left? Ilhan Omar, you want to crack down on this, but where are you on this other thing? The same thing I said, you're opening up such a huge gaping lane for a right demagogue to slide right in.
To do is we have to make sure that our rails are safe. Democrats passed a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill and only $5 billion went towards rail safety. This is a failure. It would have never happened under a Republican-controlled infrastructure bill, and we need to hold Democrats accountable for this, especially Pete Buttigieg.
Where is the money going?
Well, the money's going to the Green New Deal. Over $1 trillion from the infrastructure bill goes to Green New Deal programs. Things like $7 billion to convert buses and ferries to electric batteries. Most of that benefits China because China controls the electric battery in the industry, and America doesn't even compete. You see, they didn't care about infrastructure. They didn't care about planes, trains, and automobiles and our real infrastructure in our crumbling nation. They cared about passing their policies, woke policies like the Green New Deal that only make people like Greta happy and make people like Bill Gates happy, but don't do anything for the American taxpayers and the very important needs of our infrastructure.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't you have to, pillage the earth using big, heavy equipment that uses diesel fuel to mine cobalt and manganese and nickel to build the batteries, whether they're built here or in China? That's the process. And the last time I checked, about 90% of our electric grid, which you would use to then charge your battery after you pillage the earth to get the materials to build the battery, isn't that all fossil fuel?
You see all the nonsense they're saying about what they call, woke something? Woke climate activists. You see how they're able to flip the word and make woke mean something that it's not? Because people who are espousing to be for these things are not actually for these things, are not fighting for these things. So look at these people who call themselves climate people, but they're just woke climate. Woke people don't do shit. I'm almost starting to believe that this is intentional. They're intentionally being weak. They're intentionally being soft and fragile.
Related, 90% of it?
Well, 90% of it is, Sean. But you see, Democrats want to convert that to green energy. And the federal lands, they have taken more control over all of these rare earth minerals in America and taken it into federal controlled lands. They don't want you to mine those lands. They don't want you to mine for minerals. They want to convert us and make us completely dependent on countries like China, which completely control.
They keep throwing in China. You understand, Republicans hate China.
Most of the world's rare earth mineral mines, instead of allowing American companies to be able to mine it right here at home, or just, yeah.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. When you run into AOC in the halls of Congress or on the floor of the House, do you ever speak to people that have these views? Do you ever have these discussions in person?
I've tried, Sean. I actually challenged AOC to debates multiple times, and she has refused to debate me. And I wanted to specifically debate her on the Green New Deal. I wanted to challenge her as a successful business owner and an American taxpayer on her ideas that will completely change the way our country functions, not only with energy, but in our entire economy. But AOC couldn't do it. You want to know why? She's chicken, and she isn't brave enough to defend those ideas because they're not her own. They came out of a think tank, and she just put her name on them.
And I'm willing.
Oh my God, this is so terrible. The left is so. This week, you literally have Bozo the Clown or Miss Bozo the Clown calling you out, and you look like a fucking clown, man. This is so. Where am I going? Let's go to Twitter. Goes out here, but pretty sad to see. But Marjorie Taylor Greene going at AOC in this way just points out to. I just hope that it's opening the eyes of more people. That is really what I hope is happening. That it's opening. Oops, which one am I on? This one. Oh, that is opening the eyes of more people. I hope. Wow. Mint Press actually posted the video we covered earlier on Richie Torres. I'm sure Jose Vega knows that. That's going to blow that video up. But yeah. What was I just about to show? Just forgot what I was just about to show here. Go to my bookmarks. So this is how we'll close out. Maybe it was a video. Yeah, I think it was a video I was going to show. How long is this one? We shall end with a video. Yeah, that almost got caught. We shall end with this. I think we'll end with this video here. So make sure you join our Substack
sledgehammer
tonight,
that we have against
Nick,
Putin is to shut down the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and do it permanently.
This is a real, acute, and proven threat.
I'm a big proponent of making sure we stop Nord Stream 2 from happening.
Stopping the Nord Stream 2.
And we need
The chancellor is there right
now. Assets like the Nord Stream 2.
And, you know, Trump also isn't wrong to identify Nord Stream 2, this pipeline that he talked about today, as problematic.
There is still time to stop Nord Stream 2 if we act quickly.
The timeline for action is short.
And I'm not going to stop working to halt Nord Stream 2 to stop Russia.
End it once and for all.
I mean, he needs to kill the Nord Stream 2 pipeline right now.
And I think the most important thing right now, and what Zelensky said, is they want Nord Stream 2 stopped. That's what I see as the most tangible reason and the tangible effect.
I believe we must stop this Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
We should have brought the project to an end.
There's still time to stop it, but we need to act quickly.
Nord Stream 2 is a danger to peace as we know it.
Nord Stream 2 is energy blackmail.
It's Putin's pipeline. It's a trap for a Russian trap.
There will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
We will put an end to it.
Germany should cancel the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. We're looking at a variety of things we could do there.
We've been so far trying to use other tools to stop the Nord Stream 2.
And we got legislation that was appropriate to now have delayed this project significantly. We need further tools. We're prepared to use those tools should you provide them to us. And we've also used our diplomatic capabilities.
This pipeline must be stopped. And the only way to prevent the completion is to use all the tools available to do that.
If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
Kill Nord Stream 2 now and let it rust beneath the waves of the Baltic.
The operator of the Nord Stream gas pipeline